with the current number of combatants of the 5 forces just only more than 2,000. Bien Junwoo continued in his usual cold tone. You guys don't need to kill all the zombies. You just need to delay them for a while to create opportunities for our investigation team. Once we go deep underground and eliminate all the corpse kings, it would be easy to deal with the zombies without a commander. 100,000 zombies or even more. It is difficult even without a commander. Even if it's 100,000 mindless zombies, we can't hold the front line very long. However, Zhang Yi also knew that the number of zombies were definitely more than 100,000. And what Bien Junwoo said can only be listened to, and not believed. After all, in order to let everyone act as bait and attract all the combat power of the zombie army, he naturally had to stabilize everyone. So the number he said should be at least doubled. No, even tripled. Or even more. Now, all the zombies in Tianhai City would be gathering here shortly. If you say there are millions of zombies, will anyone believe it? Bien Junwoo explained that it was a good thing that the zombies were approaching in large numbers. And this also meant that they've been given a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to destroy them in one fell swoop. It was obvious that the situation was indeed bitter now, but one thing was also certain if they succeed, and that was it would be a sweet victory later. Xiao Honglian said with a stern face and crossed arms. I'm afraid we can't delay for too long. Otherwise, we will be overwhelmed by the zombies and lose our lives here. Xiao Honglian wasn't stupid, and neither were the rest. They all knew that the 100,000 zombies mentioned by Bien Junwoo was unreliable. In fact, there would definitely be more, probably 1 million or close to it. So why should they die here when they could still retreat to their underground base as a last result? Because once the zombies breached their defense line, the formation of the 5 forces would face major problems, and everyone might die shortly after. Bien Junwoo turned his gaze towards Xiao Honglian and gave her an alternative. If you think the defense is too heavy to handle, you can exchange with the others. Or exchange tasks with our investigation team. Xiao Honglian's expression suddenly became a little uncomfortable. It was difficult for the 5 forces to defend against the zombie tide. But compared to the task of the investigation team, theirs were much easier. After all, going deep underground and facing countless bronze-armored zombies and a large number of zombies. Except for the investigation team, no other force in the city had such strength and courage. Xiao Honglian could only bite her tongue, and replied that she understands. At this point, we have no choice but to fight. Captain Bien, all our hopes are placed on you. No problem, Bien Junwoo said lightly, and given the enormity of this battle, it was paramount that they succeed. Because if they fail, Tianhai City will completely become a dead city. Bien Junwoo shouted for everyone to prepare for battle. This atmosphere also affected Zhang Yi, who was relatively relaxed at the beginning. For some reason, he began to feel nervous. If they really fail, he could only escape through his double doors with the people around him. Then go back to the shelter to pick up the rest, and leave Tianhai City together. With such a worry, Zhang Yi approached Bien Junwoo. Mr. Bien, there is a question I don't understand. And I was wondering if I can ask you for advice. Now that we know that as long as we get rid of the corpse kings, the zombie crisis will end. Why don't you ask Jiangnan District for reinforcements? With their strength, sending a group of elite soldiers over, it shouldn't be too difficult to eliminate these zombies. Why let us face such a huge pressure now? After listening to Zhang Yi's words, Bien Junwoo suddenly laughed slightly. He turned his head and looked at Zhang Yi and asked, "Do you think the problem in Tianhai City is serious?" Zhang Yi didn't know how to answer. Is it serious? He thought. Of course it is serious. Such a large-scale zombie riot is likely to turn Tianhai City into a dead city and spread to the surrounding cities. Is it not serious? Zhang Yi could only ask with a smile. Bien Junwoo said, "That's just what you think." He became serious. Listen, Zhang Yi. In this era of change, looking at the entire Jiangnan region, the zombie siege in Tianhai City is just a common and a small matter. New problems arise every day. Strange people, strange creatures, and unknown strange events. The region needs to deal with a lot of things, and there are only a limited number of investigation teams like ours. Therefore, unless the situation is so serious that it is out of control, the region will not send a large force to suppress it. He patted Zhang Yi on the shoulder. This world is very big, and is far more than just Tianhai City. If one day you go to the outside world and take a look, you will understand that this place is actually very stable. In the heart of the Central Plains, among the rivers, lakes, and famous mountains and rivers, that's where gods and ghosts run rampant. Zhang Yi's eyes were full of curiosity, and at the same time, he was full of reluctance to leave Tianhai City. He shook his head. I'd better not do it. I'm a homesick person, and it's good for me to stay in Tianhai City. Bien Junwoo didn't say much, just smiled faintly. If you change your mind one day, "You can contact." He wanted to say, "Contact me," but the words suddenly paused. With his physical condition, how long he can live was a question. "Let's talk about this after we solve the problem of the zombies." Then, silently added in his thoughts that hopefully, he'll still be alive. Time passed day by day. Then finally, in the mid-afternoon of the 5th day, the zombies finally came. They emerged from the 3 subway entrances, like a dark mass, as if an ant nest had been poked, and countless ants came out in a line. Before long, the entire land was flooded with zombies. And from the depths of the subway, countless of them continued to appear. Just a few minutes later, about 80,000 zombies appeared around the sect. Among them, there were faintly visible bronze-armored corpses that were 2 or 3 times taller than ordinary zombies. And rats were also surging in the zombie tide. Although everyone had been mentally prepared, they couldn't help but curse when they really saw such a scene. So when the zombies swarmed out of the 3 subway entrances around the snow worship sect, their lookout warned everyone. The zombie tide is coming. The battle is about to begin. Zhang Yi took Zhokir to St. John's Cathedral and handed her over to Yuan Kongye. "Please protect her." He said this as he stared at Yuan Kongye. Yuan Kongye didn't say anything, but outside the church gate, there were always 2 mutants who were responsible for protecting the safety of the church. With them around, they can hold out for a while even if zombies break through the outer defense line. Yuan Kongye made Zhang Yi aware of this to ease his worry a little. Zhang Yi then turned around and rushed back to his post after doing all this. As he was leaving, Zhokir couldn't help but worry about his safety. At a safe place from prying eyes, he used the double doors to reach his sniping spot on top of the building he scouted earlier, and then sniped the zombies in an orderly manner. There was a huge luggage bag beside his feet, containing tens of thousands of bullets. From his high angle, he could clearly see how much pressure every battlefield around him was facing. "How many can I kill with this shot?" Zhang Yi sighed, and then raised the sniper rifle in his hand, then fired a shot. And a zombie several thousand meters away was immediately decapitated, and the head turned into a ball of blood mist and exploded. The zombie who lost his head has not completely lost the ability to move, but because he can't confirm the direction, he has become a headless fly, and soon he is stepped on by other zombies behind him. Zhang Yi quickly turned the muzzle of the gun, and the action of shooting was almost without any pause. With his ability to accurately shoot, he can destroy a zombie every 2 seconds, making it lose its combat effectiveness. Zhang Yi will turn the muzzle of his gun according to the situation on the battlefield, giving priority to solving the zombies closest to him. However, on such a battlefield, his personal ability was relatively limited. At most, he can kill hundreds of times more zombies than ordinary soldiers, but it is difficult for him to influence the entire battle situation by himself. The zombies braved the guns and explosives. Then they crossed the wall of flames. And as numerous perish in the flames, it didn't halt their advances due to their large number. They roared and still continued to charge towards the defense line like ants. Behind the defense line, they were greeted by large-caliber heavy machine guns, since ordinary pistols and rifles can do nothing with them. But this kind of thing can penetrate the armor of armored vehicles. So when it hits a group of corpses, it can completely tear them apart. Aim at their legs. Xiao Honglian stood at the front line of the battlefield with a serious expression and commanded her soldiers. If these zombies are unkillable, then all we need to do is to cripple them and make them unable to move. The muzzle of the heavy machine gun spurted out flames as each bullet was aimed at the legs of the zombies rushing in front. Soon, their limbs flew everywhere, and their lower bodies were cut off as expected. After the zombies in front fell down, they lost their ability to move, but they still roared and crawled forward. However, they were stepped on by the zombies behind them, rushing forward. On the other hand, the zombies that managed get close to the almost non-existent defense line of the Snow Worship sect were immediately attacked. The capable members of the sect, fully armed with axes and machetes in their hands, rushed forward and engaged in a direct fight with the zombies and the mutated rats. The strategy of the Snow Worship sect has always been the same when it came to dealing with the army of undead. At this time, the huge copper-armored corpses among the zombie siege were not in a hurry and stayed behind. Compared to the hundreds of thousands of ordinary zombies, there were only a few hundred of the copper-armored corpses. So the giant rats and the ordinary zombies were the first to attack to consume the power of the human forces. Then, the bronze-armored corpses, which were equivalent to a level 2 mutant, were to only join the fray when the defense lines were weakened. This was the clever fighting method of the Corpse Kings. When Xiao Honglian saw them, her scalp was numb. She clearly remembered that it was this thing that tore her subordinate, Dong Hu, to pieces. How can we fight so many copper-armored corpses? Zhuge Qingting said in astonishment. He thought that the number of such copper-armored corpses was very rare. But now there are hundreds of them. Xiao Honglian quickly got her act together, and with her sword-raised eyebrows, she shouted in a deep voice, "What are you afraid of? We will kill as many as they come." At this point, there was no room for retreat, only a fight to the death. With the scale of the zombies and the number of copper-armored corpses beyond imagination, everyone had no choice but to fight. But at this moment, Zhang Yi had already regarded each of the copper-armored corpses as his prey on the high-rise building. He opened his alternate space and changed his weapon to a heavy and huge anti-material sniper rifle, with its special bullets already loaded. The bronze armor corpses are finally here. Not bad. It's a good opportunity for me to test out my surprise, he said. Zhang Yi took his position on the balcony and aimed at the head of a huge bronze-armored zombie. And to be precise, it was its eyes. Then suddenly, accompanied with a loud bang, the roar of the anti-material sniper rifle sounded at the back of the battlefield. The armor-piercing bullet made of special materials, which was blessed with the supernatural power of the strongest space-related mutant in Tianhai City, shot directly through the head of the bronze-armored corpse fiercely. The huge impact force made it staggered backwards. And although the defensive skull of the bronze-armored corpses were amazingly tough, the high-energy bullet still entered its cranial cavity, then began to burn its brain on an atomic level. Seconds later, the copper-armored corpse, which had a terrifyingly strong vitality, didn't even get to roar in pain before its head was blown off. Then its body fell to the ground. When Zhang Yi saw this scene, the smile on his face was unusually obvious. Sure enough, it succeeded. After the difficulties he encountered with the copper-armored corpses last time, Zhang Yi spent a lot of time preparing for another battle after returning to the shelter. According to the information provided by Liang Yu and Uncle Yu, he had a general understanding of the copper-armored corpses' defense. So he conducted experiments based on this data to improve his power of sniping. Seeing such terrifying results, the copper-armored corpses, the zombies which were supposed to be the greatest threat to the human forces, were trying desperately to hide in the zombie group. But they were too big, so there was no need to deliberately look for them. Zhang Yi turned the muzzle of his gun and began to shoot them in the eyes. Bang! 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 The roar of the anti-material sniper rifle resounded throughout the Snow Worship Sect's base camp. The stream of bullets cut through the night sky, and the copper-armored corpses fell one after the other with their head blown off. At this moment, Xiao Honglian and Wei Dinghai were stunned to witness such a scene. They were still terrified by the appearance of the copper-armored corpses in the last second. But within the next few seconds after, they were shocked to see the copper-armored corpses being shot dead like leeks. Is this also Zhang Yi's ability? What a terrifying strength. Xiao Honglian couldn't help but mutter to herself. Wei Dinghai also added, "It's better not to go against him in the future. Otherwise, the results would be terrible for us. Fortunately, we are comrades now." On Xing Tian's side, he rode on the back of a tall demon wolf, his expression as tough as an indestructible piece of metal. Xing Tian held a battle axe in his right hand that was taller than him and as thick as a door panel. A white light emerged from his unyielding body, covering his entire body, and finally spreading to all the soldiers behind him. Xing Tian's ability, Legion, can cover his entire army, bringing a huge morale and combat power boost to the soldiers. Their body shapes even changed visibly with the naked eye, becoming more majestic and capable, and their spirits also improved by several levels. They held huge battle axes and roared to the sky, and the roar even covered the roar of the zombies. He jumped high from the demon wolf, and with his huge battle axe sweeping through the air, he descended on the zombie group like a huge storm. Xing Tian smashed heavily into the snowy ground at the center of the zombies, chopping them around him into two. The huge demon wolf also jumped into the zombies, spewing out huge cold air from its mouth, freezing a large number of zombies into ice sculptures. It swung its body hard and smashed the ice sculptures into pieces. On the battlefield filled with blizzards, Wei Dinghai's ability was too powerful. Maybe I'm not very good at one-on-one, but in the field of ice and snow, I am the king. Wei Dinghai was covered with frost armor, and as he raised his hands high, in front of him, within a range of thousands of meters, the ice and snow more than 10 meters thick under the ground exploded. Thousands of zombies were caught off guard and fell directly into the snow pit, buried by the heavy snow. With Wei Dinghai's ability, it was not that difficult to clean up the miscellaneous zombies. On the battlefield, the Snow Worship Sect were the ones suffering severe losses. Their defenses were so simple that they were almost non-existent. They had no high walls, no barbed wires, and relied on a group of fearless believers and most mutants. And their fearless believers were only armed with knife and machetes. how they have managed to survive the zombies for such a long time was still a mystery. When Zhang Yi was sniping, he noticed this about the snow worship sect. And although their strategy clearly had the crudest defense, he was truly puzzled as to how the sect was able to hold out for such a long time without being wiped out by the zombie swarm. In fact, everything about the existence of the snow worship sect was really mysterious and creepy. Zhang Yi thought of this as he turned the muzzle of his gun and fired rapid shots in succession. He easily killed more than a dozen bronze-armored corpses within the zombie tide. Although there were too many zombies in the hundreds of thousands, the number he'd killed had greatly reduced the pressure on the entire coalition. And this made Zhang Yi wondered if he had really overestimated their capabilities. After all, the bronze-armored corpses were smarter than ordinary zombies, so why didn't they take precautions even though Zhang Yi had killed so many of them? And aren't they supposed to be the killers of the zombie tide? At this moment, Bien Junwoo and his team had already driven away from the snow worship sect. And just like last time, they went around to the rear of the zombie tide. Since they had mastered the satellite positioning capabilities of the nebula system, they can grasp everything that happens in the entire Tianhai city in real time. They were the main team responsible for the decapitation operation, so they did not participate in the frontal battle. The zombies that emerged from the subway tunnels soon reached hundreds of thousands, and they were still emerging. This is already over 100,000, right? How come there is still some? How many are there? There can't be millions of them, Kong Shang said with some worry. I don't know how long they can hold off the zombie tide attack. Wu Di crossed his arms and sneered. Don't worry, they will fight to the death to survive. As long as they can buy time for us to eliminate the underground corpse kings. It doesn't matter even if they are killed. It was evident that Wu Di didn't care about the lives of any of the people in Tianhai City. He only cared about whether they could complete their task. Bien Junwoo did not refute Wu Di's words. He just observed the scene ahead with a grim expression. He knew that preventing the zombie group from continuing to expand and spread to the surrounding areas is what they and the top leaders of the Jiangnan region were most concerned about. The lives of a few people are not important in the face of the overall situation. And after an unknown amount of time, no more zombies appeared in the depths of the subway tunnel. Then Bien Junwoo said, "Let's go. It's our turn to take action." When the team came to the entrance of the tunnel, Meng Xiu was asked to use her reconnaissance ability to check the situation in the tunnel first. After investigating, Meng Xiu came to a conclusion and told everyone, there are still a very terrifying number of zombies below and many bronze-armored corpses. Hearing this, Bien Junwoo immediately knew that it was a trap. The intelligent white-haired monkeys had suffered a loss once before, and they calculated that this tactic could be carried out again if they didn't find a way to counter. Bien Junwoo continued in a cold tone. So, these damn beasts are also calculating us. Their learning speed almost makes them like humans. Perhaps their brains are not much different from humans as well. Then what should we do? Bailey Chongqing asked. If there are too many zombies below, it will be very dangerous for the 7 of them to rush in rashly. The key point is that if the Corpse King cannot be killed, everything planned so far would be in vain. Bien Junwoo replied in a deep voice that they should wait a little longer. The sect camp can still hold on for some time and attract more zombies out. Although these zombies could not be easily killed, the purpose of the 5 forces were very clear, which was to attract and delay the attack of the zombie tide, in order to buy time for the investigation team. But the number of zombies at this moment was too large. A rough estimate shows that there are no less than 200,000 zombies on the battlefield. And this did not count those annoying giant rats. The forces were suffering heavy casualties. The gap in numbers was still too big. Zhang Yi was still on the high building, holding a sniper in his hand, and wondering how long will it take for the zombie tide to end. As for Flower, he stayed beside Zhang Yi as usual. In a sense, Flower was Zhang Yi's most trusted Imperial Guard with a sword. Its close combat ability was very strong, its mobility was strong, and its defense was comparable to that of a chariot. Meanwhile, inside the St. John's Cathedral Church, Yuan Kongye stood in front of the crucifix, clasped her hands calmly, and silently prayed. The shouts and gunshots from outside were clearly heard here, and the faces of the believers hiding in the church were full of tension. But Yuan Kongye's face was still so peaceful, like everything outside had nothing to do with her. Zhou Qir sat on a chair in the church with her medical aid box next to her. Although she was not religious, she also prayed to the gods silently in her heart. God, if you really exist, please bless Zhang Yi and the others to be safe, she whispered. At this moment, a cold voice sounded above her head. Only the most devout believers will be blessed by the gods. Zhou Qir raised her head and met Yuan Kongye's cold and bright eyes. Hello! She smiled and greeted. moving her eyes away from Yuan Kongye's gaze. Yuan Kongye looked at Zhou Qi deeply as she approached her. Are you feeling distressed and feeling like you have no way to help your man? Zhou Qi's expression was slightly unnatural when her thoughts were exposed. Maybe a little. After all, I am a doctor and can only work in the rear. It is impossible for me to go to the battlefield with him. Yuan Kongye's eyes had a kind of soul-stirring power, making anyone want to immerse themselves in it. She then said in a seductive voice, perhaps you also have the potential to become a mutant. This sentence made Zhou Qi's heart beat a little faster. When she looked into Yuan Kongye's eyes, she felt a powerful force that shocked her and made her unconsciously want to obey Yuan Kongye's orders. Becoming a mutant was an existence she longed for. In the past, this feeling was not obvious, but ever since her cousin awakened her superpowers, her desire to also be a mutant has become stronger and stronger. She felt that her presence was getting lower and lower beside Zhang Yi, and this was something she was unwilling to accept. She was afraid her role would be replaced by someone better. Then the distance between her and Zhang Yi would definitely become farther and farther. But Zhang Yi had warned her to be careful of the people of the snow worship sect, especially Yuan Kongye. So Zhou Qi was rather indifferent to Yuan Kongye's words. Really? This is the first time I've heard someone say that. She smiled politely. Zhou Qi's thoughts were revealed by Yuan Kongye, which made her eyes flicker a little. Don't underestimate your potential. Many times, all you lack is an opportunity. Believe in yourself. You have the potential to become a mutant. Zhou Qi thought of it a little. She questioned why everyone around Zhang Yi was a mutant. Why can't she also become one? Yuan Kongye stared at her, her clear and cold eyes carrying an inexplicable charm. You also deserve to be a mutant just like the rest. And your man also needs your help. I can make you a mutant. Zhou Qi, are you willing to accept it? Hearing this, Zhou Qi's heartbeat quickened. Then, Yuan Kongye made an intimate move and reached out to touch her cheek. She then said softly, that's right, I can make you a mutant just like you desire. Zhou Qi knew that the woman in front of her had the power to help others awaken their superpowers. She also knew that this woman was very mysterious and could not be easily trusted. But at this moment, she subconsciously remembered Zhang Yi's warning about not believing anything from Yuan Kongye. She hesitated for only a few seconds, and suddenly, her inner fluctuations subsided. She politely smacked Yuan Kongye's hand away from her cheek. Thank you, but I don't really need it. She was completely resolved in her decision at this moment. Seeing this, Yuan Kongye's eyes flashed with a hint of disappointment. She smiled slightly. It was okay, she said. You can think about it slowly. When you change your mind, you can come to me. The blessing of God is an opportunity, and not everyone has the opportunity. After saying that, Yuan Kongye turned around and approached the altar in front of her. Then, she clasped her hands calmly and continued to pray silently. Back on the battlefield, 20 minutes had passed in a flash. The coalition forces fought and retreated. After each retreat, a large number of traps would be prepared, which were buried with incendiary materials and explosives, which could eliminate a large number of zombies. The defense circle was getting smaller and smaller. Xiao Honglian gritted her teeth and contacted Bian Junwu. We can't hold on any longer. How are you doing at your end? Bian Junwu said coldly. We are about to find the corpse king. Just hold on for a while, and we will get the desired results soon. However, Bian Junwu, who had ended the conversation, was still outside and hadn't gone deep into the underground at all. He was still waiting together with his team for the large number of zombies ambushed inside to appear. As long as the forces hold on long enough, the Corpse King will definitely send more zombies to support. The battle has been fought fiercely, and all the bronze-armored corpses were eliminated, leaving only the ordinary zombies. At this moment, Liang Yu, Uncle Yu, and Chunlei were supporting the front line. They were able to hold their own and hadn't suffered any major injuries.